Beneteau has added to its Swift Trawler range here at Cannes in the shape of the new 41. It comes as a sedan or a flybridge, and the flybridge is the one that's here at the show, and prices start at €360,000, a little bit less for the sedan version. But let's get on board and have a closer look. We're starting here at the transom. This seat here is on a runner, so it can slide in and out depending on how much space you want, either here in the cockpit or back on the bathing platform. We have a winch here, which is obviously quite useful for mooring, but this also will pull the tender in. There's a system of runners that slot into the deck here, and then you just put a line through the D-ring on the tender, and the winch will pull the tender up on board onto the bathing platform, which is quite nice and hassle-free. Now, to excuse the detritus, it is a boat show after all, so there's some kit on board. There's the usual Swift Trawler traits here. Really good side decks. They're asymmetric, so this port side one isn't covered and it's raised, but it's still a decent enough size. But then if you go to the starboard side, you have a proper covered deck, and that aligns with the side door by the helm, more of which later. We'll head forward. And what's nice is that next to this large side door you have a gate right next to it, so that the skipper can jump out onto the pontoon and take a line if they need to. Quite a simple layout up here on the foredeck. There are some bag cushions that go up here. You don't need those today in this charming weather. Nice flat foredeck as well, good high bow rails. It's an easy boat to move around on, and it feels very safe. A couple of other things to mention in the cockpit. One is that this ladder slides up against the door via these runners, so you have more space here in the cockpit if you want it. And underneath this hatch here, there is an enormous lazarette. Lots of these boats are used as liverboards. The Swift Trawler range show as much storage as possible, and that's a really good space. Underneath this hatch is where you find access to the engines. The boat comes with twin diesels on shaft drive, so you can either have 260 horsepower or 320 horsepower. The top speed with the 320 horsepower engines is in the region of 23-24 knots, cruising speed of about 18 knots. And this is the first Swift Trawler with an aft galley layout. Every other Swift Trawler has had an amidships galley. This one has the galley aft, and that's for a couple of reasons. One is it means that you have more space, so that you can afford to have a domestic fridge freezer. Again, liverboard boat, cooling space is important, hence why they've wanted to fit that in there. And also the connection to the cockpit is so much better. It means that the person in the galley can as easily serve the cockpit as they can the saloon. Another neat touch here in the saloon is this chair. Now, a lot of the time the helm seat downstairs is completely useless once you've stopped moving along, but this one on this mechanism here pops up, swivels round, and then pulls up opposite the table. The table, of course, will extend, so once you have the helm seat swiveled round and the table out, you have two extra seats opposite the table. Really useful feature, and it means that this double seat isn't just wasted space once the boat has stopped moving. You'll notice there are runners here in the ceiling. That's because there's an option to have a drop down table, and you can make another berth here, and this means that the people sleeping on that berth have a little bit of privacy. Okay, it's not noise proof, but it does mean that if people get up to make a cup of tea, they're not going to completely disturb the people who are sleeping on this area, and they have a little bit more privacy up here. Quite a simple helm station. Typical big ship's wheel, they fit those to all the Swift Trawlers. It's a nice simple arrangement, and what's great about these boats is that you can stand and drive them. Yes, there's a double helm seat which you can sit at quite comfortably, but there's enough headroom that you can stand and drive these, and it's a nice commanding driving position. This boat has the extra large side door. There's a smaller one as standard. I think the extra large one is a great idea. These are so helpful, not only for access through the boat, but also to help ventilate. Really is part of this boat's charm, how easy it is to get out onto the deck if you're the skipper. You may hear a bit of whirring, the heating's on, that tells you just how cold it is in the south of France today. But we'll head downstairs anyway, and we'll go straight forward to the master cabin. She's got quite a full bow, and the cabin pushes right out to the extremes of that bow, So you do have a nice amount of space in here. Headroom is pretty good. I'm around 6 foot and I can stand pretty comfortably here at the end of the bed. You have hanging storage on both sides, and now they've extended the window line on these Swift trawlers. You get a good amount of natural light in here. Of course, you have a hatch overhead as well. What is quite neat is that you have a split toilet and shower. So in this cabin, on one side you find the toilet and the sink, and then on the starboard side, once the main cabin door is shut, you find the shower cubicle. So if somebody wants to brush their teeth while the other one is showering, they can. Just adds a little bit of extra practicality. And these are very practical boats. Okay, the finish isn't going to be worrying the likes of Princess and Azimuth, but it's all functional. It feels solid, it feels built to last. It's a boat that people use and it's built as such. This is the guest cabin. Quite simple, reasonably basic, but comfortable enough. And again, a pair of good sized berths and you have a bit of storage in here. A little bit dark, but then we have got a boat right next to us. If you had a bit more light coming in through that window, there'd be a bit more natural light. And that cabin is close to the day heads. So that means that people don't have to use the master cabin facilities in the day. They can come and use a bathroom all of their own. It's more of a wet room actually. You don't have a separate shower cubicle, but you do have a shower curtain, so you can shower in there if you want to. And this third cabin, so to speak, is configurable. It's not technically not a cabin, it's a sort of utility area, and you can spec it how you wish. So there's all options here. You can have it completely bare if you just want to fill it with your own storage solutions. You can add these shelves, you can add the washer dryer, you can even add a full bunk here if you want, so you've got the sleeping space if you need it. But this is really a utility space for the Swift trawler owner to use it as they wish. Heading up to the flybridge. And you have your helm station up here. This is a nice configuration. It's not too fussy, everything's clear, concise, good view from the centre of the boat here, and everything's within easy reach. And these two headrests here, backrests I should say, flip the other way so that two other people can sit face forward when the boat is moving along, and the rest of it is just dining space. And gone are the days where you had the crane up on here on Swift trawlers to lift the dinghy up onto this deck. The dinghy now lives on the lower deck, but that means you have this aft space here which is free to do with what you wish. Freestanding table and chairs if you wish, or sun lounges most likely, but a nice bit of empty space up here. And then this is where you also find the wet bar. It's a pretty good location here to serve guests up on this deck.